Hello Year 3 and welcome back to another day of home learning. So I'm really confident now then that everyone has finished their Great Exhibition leaflet, you're completely done with that, and I think you can feel really proud of what you have achieved. Now, as we're kind of winding down now towards the end of the half term, only a few days left of one, we're going to sort of, rather than start anything too chunky now, we're going to just do a few kind of smaller units. And I want to start that off today with a little unit all about poetry. So we're going to be looking at some different types of poems and have a go at writing some ourselves. Now, I want to show you an example of the poetry that we're going to be looking at today. So I wonder if you can listen really carefully for this one and tell me what this poem is all about while I'm reading it. Mouse hunter, milk drinker, night stalker, fur licker, ankle rubber, dog hater, nose nuzzler, ear scratcher, noise maker. So this is a type of poem that we're going to be looking at today, and I wonder if while reading it you had a bit of a sort of thought about what this one is all about. The poems that we're going to be looking at today are all have lots of different lines, all describing one thing in lots of different ways. So all of the lines for this poem are all about one thing. I wonder if you've worked out what it could be. So it's a dog hater, it's a mouse hunter, it's a noise maker, a milk drinker. I reckon one or two of you have probably got one in the room with you. Maybe an eye shot, maybe even in your lap at the moment. I reckon one or two of you. What is it this poem was describing? Did you get it? It's a cat, isn't it? All of these things are ways you could describe a cat. You could call that cat a dog hater. You could call it an ankle rubber. You could call it a night stalker or an ear scratcher. Here is another one. This one's about a person. So again, have a really good think while we look at this next one, who this person could be. Tie wearer, hard worker, Netflix watcher, knowledge giver, beer drinker, pizza eater, brownie maker, cabbage hater, football lover. Don't know if that one's easier or harder. I'd be interested to know which lines gave it away as well. Did you get this one? So this was, it was me, wasn't it? This is a poem all about me. All of these would be ways you could describe me. So let's look at in a bit more detail then at what these poems are and what makes them this sort of poem. So I bet you've already started to notice some of these things, but could you pause the video now and maybe have a proper conversation about this? What are you noticing about how these poems are constructed or laid out? So what are you noticing about the structure of these poems? What are you noticing about the way they're written? Just pause the video and have a bit of a conversation now. What can you tell me about what these poems are like? What do they have in common? What do you notice about them? Pause the video and have a quick chat about that. Okay, I reckon there's probably lots of things you've mentioned. We could say that all of these have two words to a line. We could say that, certainly in the examples we've got here, they all end in they've got this suffix er. And I'm hoping you've also noticed that they have this special bit of punctuation connecting the two words. Now, well done. This is exactly the kind of poem that we're going to be looking at today. And these are called a kenning poem. Now, a kenning is a sort of posh word to describe when we put two words together. So if I just go back a page, we can see that all of these are two words put together. And that bit of punctuation in between is what sticks them together. And we call that a kind of compound. That's when two things come together. So a kenning is a compound of two words being put together to describe one thing, like cake eater. You do see this quite a lot in the English language, things like tearjerker, if it's a sad film, skyscraper, tall building. Those are examples of kennings, and that's when you've got two words stuck together to describe one thing. It's really common in other languages and it came into English use with the Anglo-Saxons. Now, don't worry too much if you're not so familiar with the Anglo-Saxons, but I bet you might well know or be able to think about a Viking. A Viking Vikings often named their weapons using kennings, and they would call them really sort of gruesome, horrible things like a blood taker or a skull splitter. So rather than just calling it an axe, they used a compound of two words stuck together. They'd call it a blood taker, and that is an example of a kennings. And that word kenning comes from an Old Norse word. Shall I have a go at pronouncing that? Oh, apologies if this is offensive. I'm going to say kenna eat vio. Might be completely wrong. And that means to express a thing in another form. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. We're going to try to express a thing or say something in a slightly different form. So you'll notice, going back to these ones, at no point did I use the word cat or Mr. Vass. I deliberately described it in a different way, didn't I? In fact, I described it in loads of different ways. I didn't at any point use the word cat or Mr. Vass. And that's what we're going to do today. In true Norse style, we're going to be describing something in another form. So hopefully we've noticed this already. A kenning is a compound of two words stuck together. And that special bit of punctuation in between is called a hyphen. So that little red line there, you can see it's called a hyphen. Say it with me, it's a hyphen. Now, all that means really is that it's just a little line that sort of connects those two words together. You could think of that a little bit like a little piece of glue or a bit of sellotape. It looks like more like sellotape actually, doesn't it? Yeah, let's call it a bit of sellotape. And it's sticking those two words together. So there's not a kind of full space. There's not a finger space like we might normally do. We've not pressed the space bar there. It's stuck together with a little bit of sellotape called a hyphen. And that connects those two words together. And this is what we're talking about when we're using a kenning. It's sticking two words together. Now, really tricky question now. This is going to be a bit of a head scratcher. What word class are the words I've used in my poem? Now, I tell you what, let's split this up. Let's look at the first ones first of all. So all the ones on the left-hand side. What type of words are all these ones on the left? Are they nouns? That's the name that we give to people, places, and things. Are they adjectives? So are they describing words? Are they describing nouns? Are they verbs? Those are doing words. Are they adverbs, which describe how a verb was done? Bit of a tricky question this. So mouse, milk, night, fur, ankle, dog, nose. Which of those are they? Well, these are all nouns. Mouse is a name for an animal, milk's the name for a drink, night is the name for that time of day. These are all the names of things, or you might say the labels for things, and so they are all nouns. Now, much trickier, and this might catch a few people out here. What type of word class have we got on the right-hand side? So I've got hunter, drinker, stalker, licker, rubber, hater, nuzzler, and so on. Really tricky one, this. I'm not necessarily expecting anyone to get it. Now, you might have said verb, which would not be a silly answer in the slightest. In fact, if you've said verb, well done, because we've got most of a verb here. Hunt, that's something you can do. Drink, that's something you can do. Stalk, lick, rub, hate, all of these are things that you can do. And so they are verbs, or at least they would be. But what have we got on the end of all of these verbs? We've got, in various sort of spelling pattern forms, an ER ending. And that ER ending turns these verbs into nouns. So really, really well done if you've noticed that these words on the right-hand side are also nouns. House point to you, well done. So yeah, we've actually got two nouns stuck together here, because when we've got that ER ending, that ending, it turns a verb into a noun. So a hunter is the name of someone who hunts, a drinker is the name of someone who drinks, a stalker is the name of someone who stalks. And so because they're the names of something, they're a noun. That was really tricky though, so sorry about that. So yeah, both parts of a kenning are nouns. We talked about that. A word, if it ends in an they might have seemed like a verb, like the word lick is something you can do, so it's a verb. But if you've got that suffix, that ER ending, that changes it into a noun. So we've got two nouns connected together with that little bit of sticking tape called a hyphen. So here are the ones for my Mr. Vass poem: tie wearer, hard worker, Netflix watcher. All of these are nouns and they're stuck together with a little hyphen. Now, if you wanted to get really, really technical and posh, particularly if you've got sort of year 6 brothers and sisters with you at home, they might know these as a noun phrase, and that's a group of words which kind of fulfill the same purpose as one single noun. So football lover, they're both nouns separately, but they're a noun phrase when they're together, because that's kind of performing the job of a noun in a sentence. You don't need to worry too much about that. Right, so a kenning poem uses lots of kennings about one person or thing. So you saw my one there about a cat or about Mr. Vass. They had lots of lines of kennings all about one thing. And I really like these because I think they can act a bit like a riddle. The reader needs to kind of work out what these kennings are all describing. They need to work out what the poem is about. Now, for today, we're actually going to keep this fairly simple, and we're going to write one about ourselves. But tomorrow, I'm going to open this up and widen it out a little bit, and we're going to try to do a kennings about something a little bit more abstract, and we're going to come up with some really riddly ones, which it's going to be for other people to think of. But today, we're going to keep it simple. We're going to start off writing a poem all about ourselves. So I always think a really good way to write a kennings poem is to start by writing down everything you can think of to do with your subject. And our subject in this case is us. It's a poem about us today. So maybe on a little bit of scrap paper, or just sort of we'll do it on a whiteboard, just something where you can jot down some ideas. I want you to split your page into 4. I want my personality, and that's yours, not mine. My personality, my hobbies, my favorite things, and things I dislike. And I just want you to start jotting down some ideas. So in personality, what words come to mind when you think of you? For hobbies, what do you like to do? What have you enjoyed doing out while you've been home learning? My favorite things, so might be foods, might be sports, might be games, whatever, and things I dislike. So just write down a load of different ideas. Pause the video here, write down loads and loads of different words. You can get mum and dad to suggest some as well if they want to. Write down loads of different words to do with you. Okay, hopefully you've done that. Now, go back and try to turn some of those words into kennings. And remember, you're going to do that by adding in a second word alongside it, a word ending in er, that you've stuck on with that hyphen. That's that little line in between the 2 words. So for example, if you've written down pizza in your favorite things, you could turn that into pizza lover, or pizza eater, pizza maker. And now it's a kennings about you. So have a go, see how many of those you can make. And then you're going to turn it into a poem. Have a think about the order that you want to do it in. Might be good to sort of read it out loud as well, because sometimes you can sort of hear a bit of a natural rhythm, or some might just really sound good one after the other. So here was my kenning poem about me. Can you make a kennings poem all about you? I'm really keen to see these. So this would be a fantastic thing to send me at the end of the week. And I'm particularly looking forward to reading the ones that we make tomorrow, which are going to be about something a bit more abstract or something a bit different, because it's going to be up to me as the reader to actually work out what it is your one tomorrow is all about. But let's have a bit of a warm up today by making a kenning poem all about you. By all means, sort of present it however you wish. Maybe you're going to draw a nice picture of you on the page as well. Have fun with it. I look forward to seeing what you come up with. Okay, thanks everybody. I will see you back for our next lesson, maths, after this.